We're going to take you to some very special places on this trip, from Boggy Hull, just out the back of Alice Springs, right through to the carnival atmosphere of the Birdsville races. That's right, and in between we're going to tackle 1,100 Simpson desert sandhills, and we're taking these 4 fine chariots.
First up is the sand-thumping 7.3 litre F250. Next in line is the mighty Dakar, a 60 series with one hell of an attitude. Probably the only sensible truck here is the ARB Rodeo. And of course, rattling up the rear is Australia's best-known 40 series Milo, piloted by the infamous Roothy.
So let's saddle up and hit the track.
Before we ventured onto the dirt, we had to pile on a few bitumen miles out the back of Alice Springs. It's a pretty drive, but it's not what we travelled so far for. We were here to get away from the bitumen and everything it stands for. Ever heard of this saying? Bitumen, another waste of taxpayers' money. Well, at 4-Wheel Drive Monthly, we reckon that's just about spot on. So we chucked a left off Larapita Drive at Hermansburg and caressed the corrugations on our way to Boggy Hull. There are a few ways you can enter the Simpson Desert. From the southwest, you can duck in through Oodnadatta, or the most direct route is through Culgra and then on to Fink. But we wanted to explore a little, so we opted for the historic route through Boggy Hull and down the old Garn railway track. Not long now, we're getting close to the good stuff. And this is what it's all about. The track runs along the riverbed and is flanked by stunning bright ochre cliffs. There's nothing tough about this drive, so you can just sit back and soak up the ancient landscape. This is a photographer's paradise. The track can get a little tight in parts as you dodge the saplings, but it soon opens up again.
Well, here we are at Boggy Hull. Great place to come for a paddle. Just beware the black mud though. You might come out looking a little darker than you did going in.
In 1889, a police camp was set up here designed to quell hostilities between local station owners and Aborigines. But the camp was abandoned in 1891 when police officer Wilkshire was arrested for the murder of 2 Aborigines. It wasn't until 3 years later that a replacement camp was built at Ilmerda Springs. It's hard to believe that a place as peaceful as this was once home to that sort of violence.
We've jumped off Ellery Creek now, and we're onto the Fink River, and we're driving along the base of that. It's widened up a little bit, but the amazing thing is when they get rain out here, the Fink River can actually get up to 5 kilometres wide. She's a pretty spot too, though. I reckon much prettier up this end of the Fink than down near the township of Fink. Beautiful big flooded gums popping out of the riverbed. Lovely big red cliffs. This is a special spot, ladies and gents.
So just make sure you perm your pooch.
We rolled into camp pretty late last night, and we've landed at one of those real outback icons. It's one of those places that you just have to go before you curl up your toes. And the best time to see it is at sunrise. So most of the blokes are still tucked up tightly in their swag, snoring away. Let's go and have a look. Well, this is it, folks, Chambers Pillar. We're only camped about 100 metres that away. Chambers Pillar was caused by erosion around about 80 to 120 million years ago, and the only reason why that big knob up there hasn't eroded is because of the composition of the rock on top. It's so hard, so that's the only bit that's left out of all this whole area around here. Let's go and get a closer look, eh? Here at the Pillar we got one of the earliest signs of Aussie graffiti. A lot of people have carved their names into the rocks, and some of them are the names of early explorers and settlers. They did it as much as a safety measure as anything else, because if anyone came looking for them, they'd know that they'd been here.
So after soaking up the Pillar for the morning, we hit the track and headed on towards the Simmo, down the old Garn line.
We're on the road now between Chambers Pillar and Maryvale, and the road just up ahead here, it gets a little bit steep and rocky. Nothing to worry these sort of vehicles. I don't even think we'll worry about locking it in a low range in the big Effie. But I'll tell you what, the views from the top, they're worth it. Well, the F250 is loving this trip so far.
But even a big truck like this is defenceless when it comes to animal strikes, and that's pretty much the case with every major four-wheel drive on the market, because every four-wheel drive has its radiator mounted right at the front of the engine, and it's located there so it can get nice cool air in and obviously cool down the engine. But the problem with that is out here you get a lot of kangaroos and a lot of cattle. They can do a hell of a lot of damage to the front of your vehicle. Now, that wouldn't matter so much if you were close to town, but out here the sheer remoteness of the whole area can leave you stranded, and it's a really big problem. That's why frontal protection makes a hell of a lot of sense in these sort of parts. And let's face it, bull bars aren't just good for protecting the front of your vehicle. They're also a great spot to stick CB aerials, stick driving lights, winches. But when you are selecting a bull bar, keep an eye out for the mounts. Have a good look, get under there, check out how many high tensile bolts are holding it onto the chassis, because unless that mounting system is up to scratch, the bull bar isn't worth anything. We're driving down the old Garn railway line at the moment. It's a pretty skinny bit of track, so you do need to take it fairly easy. It can sort of lull you into that false sense of security. You'll be racing down here at 80 or 90, then all of a sudden half the track's fallen away, so take it pretty easy. Also, just running parallel to this track is the Finn Desert Race track. It's a once-a-year race, and they generally compete in four-wheel drives and buggies. It's a top race, and if you have a look at their track, they've still got a lot of the markers around there, and geez, it looks like a lot of fun. Something else to keep an eye out for on this track is, because they've actually pulled the sleepers away, there are still a lot of bolts from those sleepers floating around, so be aware of them because they can stake your tyres really easily. Well, we're here at Mount Dare Homestead, and this is your last chance to fuel up with supplies for your big trip across the Simpson. It goes from here to Dalhousie Springs and then Birdsville. So there's a lot of kilometres we've got to cover, so we really need to fuel up right now. Roothy, I meant to fuel up with diesel.
Oh, sorry, mate. Bit of a mistake. Too late now.
That's a real bugger.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Come on, ladder up.
This one's yours. Let's go. Oh, that sprung. I'm just putting one away for a keepsake. Bit of a Simpson souvenir, you know. I don't think anyone will notice. A tip for new travellers, always keep the fridge right behind the seat. Makes you wonder who decides which way the road goes out here. I mean, it's dead flat, there's no elevation. I reckon the grader driver just comes along here, gets bored, bungs in the odd corner, you know, probably rides a motorbike, puts in the odd air spend, and doesn't seem to be any other reason for it.
From here on in, it's red desert all the way. It won't be long until we're knee-deep in red sand.
There's one essential bit of kit that you do need when you're crossing the Simmo, and it's one of these things. It's a Desert Parks Pass. It's issued by the South Australian Government, but you can buy it at just about any four-wheel drive store around the country. Set you back around about $100, but you do need it to cross the Simpson, and it's got a lot of fantastic information, especially for first-timers who haven't been across. We've got a bunch of maps in there, plus a whole heap of information that really will get you out of trouble. The thing is with these is there is a trick. They do last for 12 months, so if you're considering doing a trip within the next 12 months, buy it now, then read up on it. It's quite a thick booklet, so it will take you a little bit of time to get through, but it's well worth it.
Dalhousie Springs is a dead-set outback oasis, but it's one with a twist. That water bubbles out of the ground at near boiling point, but settles down to about 40 degrees for the most part. It's a great spot to wash off the dust and freshen up for your Simmo sojourn. Just remember, don't use any soap in there. We want to keep this place pristine. It was the Overland Telegraph Line expedition that first came across the springs in 1871. Of course, Aborigines have been using these springs for many years before the whitefellas turned up. It was originally named Edith Springs after the wife of a South Australian governor, but she requested to change the name to her father's, the Marquis of Dalhousie.
Well, we're just packing up now from Dalhousie Springs. We've got this amenities block behind us, great facility, although it is a little bit on the beak. I think it's seen a fair bit of traffic. We've got just over here behind us, Dalhousie Springs had a fantastic bath this morning. Water's around about 40 degrees. So really good spot to freshen up before the Simmo, because I think this is pretty much the last spot that we can have a good dip, a good bath before we hit the road.
Mate, I think you should. You can freshen up as quick as you can.
Thanks, mate. I've already had one, actually.
Thank you for helping me, Pat. Can you go and help someone else now? Good luck.
Cheers.
Whoa.
On the road between Dalhousie Springs and Perny Bore, there are these long stretches of gibber plains, and gibbers are these little red rocks, and they're remnants of volcanic activity here millions of years ago. And don't they play havoc with the tyres? They really cut them up. Which is why we tend to use mud terrain or all-terrain tyres out here, and it's not because there are masses of mud, it's because the construction of those tyres is a hell of a lot tougher than your highway terrain tyres that most vehicles come with as standard.
About the outback, you always think about how dry and dusty it's going to be. But what you do need to remember and plan for is the fact that when it rains out here, you can get stuck. You can get stuck big time. You can see from all the ruts and stuff around here on Spring Plain, just the other side of Dalhousie, that 8 weeks ago when it rained here, no one got through. Not for the first day or two, and then it was a bit of a struggle. What can you do about it? Well, there's not much you can do. I mean, you're not going to know if it's going to rain or not. So the best thing you can do is just have some spare food. You know, you've already got your spare water. You'll be ready. Maybe have a spare bottle of rum stacked away somewhere. I like to do that. Just be patient. Wait until it dries out and then carry on. You didn't want to get home anyway, did you?
Perny Bore was put down in 1963 by a French mob who were out here looking for oil. They used the water that they found as drinking water for their workers so that they could continue their explorations into the desert. In recent years, the flow of the bore has been stemmed to a trickle over environmental concerns regarding groundwater levels.
junction of the tracks here at the moment. The French line is up that way, and it's probably the toughest track, I'd say. We're not going to head that way because there's a fair bit of traffic there. People are heading up to the Birdsville races at the moment, so the track's going to be fairly cut up. So we're going to head down the WAA line and then up to Knowles track and then rejoin the French line a little bit later on. I can taste the beers already.
Simpson. We're on our way to Birdsville, and because we've got the Birdsville races coming up, I thought I'd do something pretty special. So I thought about taking my clothes off and running around the camp, but no one was into that, so it looks like it's going to have to be cooking dinner again. When you're travelling in the bush, you really should consider what you eat fairly seriously, and I'm saying that from the point of view of a very seasoned beer drinker, okay? It is important to eat lots of carbos. So what I've got happening here is some rice. Base the meal on rice. This is going to be curried Simpson sausages, I think I'll call it, for want of a better name. I'd probably camel curry would be good too, you know, because it'll probably have a few humps in it, especially tomorrow. The trick to cooking rice, if you're out in the bush, is to dump the rice in the pot, give the pot a good clean, dump the rice in, put your hand on it and cover it with water to the top of your hand, put the lid back on, bit of salt in there. Put the salt in before you put the lid on. I better have another beer. And then just let it cook. Now, what's going to happen is it'll boil up, and if the proportions are about right, which they usually are if you just manage to cover the rice, about an inch or so, the water, most of it will evaporate, we'll have lots of nice rice. Over here I've got the start of the sauce. I'm going to get Ian to cook the sausages on the barbecue plate in a minute. The sauce is basically starting with lots of fried onions, some pine nuts and some capsicum. Why am I using those ingredients? Because I had them, basically. From there I'm going to go into my usual favourites of peanut butter, chilli sauce, some curry powder and a bit of coconut milk to spin it out a little bit. Oh, did I say curry powder? Yeah, I better say it again because there's going to be lots of it. Yeah, so we'll sort of see what happens. I think the whole trick to any cooking exercise is to not worry about how it's going to turn out. Just keep putting stuff in until it tastes all right. Does that make sense? I better go and have another beer and see how Ian's going.
Sort of say, well, yes or no.
Well, more piece the better.
Those sausages.
It's a market that's not really there. Like we have to make that market.
No, I was just thinking.
We've got Major Les Higgins here on the barbecue. Good on you, Ian. Bit of bush tucker, beef sausages from Alice Springs. Haven't really got a name for this. Camel curry.
Which way do the sand dunes run around here?
East, west, north, south.
You sure?
North, south. Which way do they go again?
I reckon the north, south.
South, north. Yeah, okay. North, south. What, you got the sausages going north, south?
Yeah.
Oh, good on you. That's a great little fire pit.
Yeah, it was a bit of a... We didn't have a lot of choice. The guy that brought the barbecue plate brought no legs.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry about that, mate. But I knew you'd work it out.
Yeah, okay. Beer can legs.
Beer can legs,
Yeah,
bit of ventilation.
We had to drink an extra 4.
We had to drink an extra 4 beers just to get the barbecue going. That's fair enough. That's all right. That's typical for us. Here he is, plenty of air in. Hot coals from the fire. There's no shortage of firewood. Beautiful. Very controlled barbecue.
Should be good.
And it's right at your level. Good on you.
Okay.
Thanks, mate.
Should we explain to our viewers our fridge tragedy?
Oh, the fridge tragedy. Oh, my Waco has died.
After how many years?
6 years of constantly supplying cold beer to the troops, and it's finally died. I mean, it just, you know, I know it's hit the roof a couple of times. You know, we did hit some big bumps, but what a shame.
But Mr. Rooter, let's tell them the full story. Not only one fridge died, we had 3 fridges die. All 3 fridges for various reasons.
Yeah.
One of them was alternator, not charging, which it's thankfully charging now. One of them was because the plug fell out over the corrugations. And the other one was because
The other one died through old age.
because it had been dunked in the high country water.
Yeah, got
up
some
to-
oil. Yeah, a bit of high country mud. And,
Yeah.
but that's not the disaster, you know. Like 3 dead fridges wouldn't hurt us any time. It was last night without a cold beer that really did it, wasn't it, mate? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm still shaking at the thought of it. But we'll make up for it tonight, Pat.
Yeah, that's right. We're still in training for the Birdsville races. It's
Yeah,
these are little green cans. They're very close to us at the moment.
you're not wrong. And we've only got 7 cartons left. I suppose that's one good thing when the fridge dies.
That's right. Yeah, cheers, big fella.
Bring on Birdsville. We're ready for some sausage over here.
Mate, the bangers are ready.
Come on down.
How do they look?
Oh, you put the good ones on top, didn't
Oh, I
you?
did the burnt ones on the bottom, brother. And there's one in the fire, I lost one.
Well, you know, given the weight of that pan and the actual amount of meat in these sausages, we'll just tuck them over here.
Cardboard
Good on you,
goes
mate. That's lovely.
Cardboard goes a long way.
That's beautiful.
Ian Schultz, my friends. Sausage cooker to the stars.
And remember, when you see Ian, it's not the sausage, it's the sizzle. Isn't that right, mate? Good on you, mate.
Oh, here comes the girly bits.
Oh,
Okay, peanut butter. Is this crunchy, Rooter?
it had better be.
Oh.
Yeah, look, see, it's got the little koala guy. Never oily, never dry.
Never dry, good
Just
stuff.
like me, my friend.
So how much of this stuff do you put in, mate?
All of it. You know why? Because if we don't, tomorrow the bottle will break and it'll be all through everything.
Ruthie, this looks suspiciously like the thing that you cooked down at the cod hole in on the last trip down to Coffs Harbour.
You've worked it out, haven't you, mate? I've got 2 recipes.
Same ingredients every time?
Pretty much,
Give
yeah.
or take 1 or 2 pine nuts.
Well, I've found that, you know, most people like peanut butter. I mean, you know, let's be honest, most people like peanut butter. Chili sauce mild. That looks good, doesn't it?
Okay. So the trick is to wait until the old peanut butter's melted down?
No, there's no trick. I'll just get it in there, get it warmed up. The only trick to any of this kind of cooking is to cook the uncooked things first. You know, like the onion, the capsicum, stuff like that, the pine nuts. I don't know why, but for some reason you start with your flavours and you work from there, you know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, mate. It's actually looking like it's slightly edible now.
It's the pine nuts. What's it missing? Curry powder.
Curry powder, my friend.
Clive of India curry powder.
Oh, yeah, so just a dash, Ruthie?
Oh, just a little bit,
Yes.
yeah. Coconut cream. You know why we use coconut cream?
No.
Neither do I. But, but I believe that, I know they use it a lot in Asian cooking.
So you use the light instead of the full creamy jigger?
Yeah, and a bit of beer. Can't cook without beer, Pat.
No. I'm empty, mate. I'm up.
Can you get me one too, please?
Yeah.
And then I'll slip in the secret ingredient while he's not there. Look at this. Scotch marmalade. Scotch marmalade. You cannot make a curry without some sort of sweet jam in there somewhere. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. But it'll really work. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of curry on this spoon. Next person to put marmalade on their toast tomorrow is going to notice it. Beautiful.
Oh,
Look at that rice.
what's cooking, Mr. Rooter?
Look at that rice. That's beautiful rice.
Turns on the chicks, my friend. If that is what is there. Is that ice? You got ice? You got ice?
Yeah,
in
I've
that
got
beer?
ice in there.
Oh, that's pure gold.
Hey guys,
Hey!
do you want to come over and grab some Birdsville budget bangers?
That's it, mate. That's it.
Pat's name, my recipe. Righto, stick the plate back there, mate. There will be more. There will be more.
Let the man
Cheers,
have
mate.
it. Oh,
Hang on, mate. You need to watch those plates. Don't come over here one-handed for the plate. Oh. I don't know what fell over,
I
but
think your truck just fell apart, mate.
Come on, Roothy, this is good stuff, mate.
is it livable?
Livable.
How is it, guys? What's the truthful response?
Sausages are well done.
Very well done. Beautiful. Beautiful.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
on
Magnificent, mate.
Oh, good stuff.
Unbelievable, guys. Almost as good as Nana Muscuri, mate. Or banana Muscuri.
Yeah, not as many hairs in this one, though.
The Simpson Desert is made up of 1,100 sandhills, and these sandhills run north-south. So we're attacking the Simmo from west to east, and that's generally considered the tougher way to do it because of the way that the wind has actually formed the sand dunes. You tend to find that if you're heading this way, the sand dunes are steeper on the way up. So normally, I guess if you went east to west, the easy way should be a fairly gentle rise up and then a steep drop down, but we're attacking it the other way for fun, and also because we've got the Birdsville races as our little party at the end. You might notice that I'm a bit rugged up this morning, wearing my woolly lined vest here. Out in the desert here, even though it gets quite warm during the day, quite pleasant actually though. It's been around about 25 degrees during the days out here. At night it gets absolutely freezing. There's zero cloud cover to keep the heat in, and yeah, she gets very chilly. So make sure you bring your woolies and your sort of 0 degree sleeping bags when you come out to these parts.
If you're going to travel in the outback, the one thing you really should do to your vehicle before you go, and it doesn't matter whether it's new or old, is fit some good aftermarket suspension. I mean good aftermarket suspension. The difference is amazing, it really is. Not only is the vehicle going to ride a lot better, but it's going to cope with the sort of weights that we carry out here. Now you can't help it. If you're going to carry water and fuel and everything else, you're really going to exceed the standard vehicle suspension so much it's not funny. I mean, apart from the need of an old girl like Milo, that really needs a little bit of softness and suppleness that you get with that suspension, look at the new Rodeo. It's loaded up to the hilt, absolutely loaded, and yet, thanks to good suspension, it's just fine. It's handling this trip brilliantly. I've been using the old man Emu suspension for a while. It's been fantastic. I would recommend that if you're going to spend money on your truck before you go out back, good suspension is the ticket. Not only are you going to enjoy the ride a lot more, you're not going to break springs.
You'll cross a number of dry salt lakes on your way across the desert. Stick to the tracks though for a few reasons. First, those lakes look awesome when they're clean and with no tyre marks tearing them up. And second, you never know what's under the surface of that salty crust. And vehicles that get stuck usually get stuck for a while. And the lack of recovery points to winch off makes for a tough extraction.
Going on about carrying extra fuel, and here's why. It's 450 k's across. Milo's range is about 500 k's. We're about halfway across. I'm nearly out of fuel. Why is that? Because the sandhills are soft, that's why, and because it uses more fuel. So I'm going to take advantage of this salt lake to have a bit of a refuel. No garages around here. My favourite form of funnel is one of these screw-on spouts. You don't spill any fuel that way, it's terrific. And you don't have that big inrush of dirt either. You should always carry extra fuel, even if you know you can get fuel reliably. Why is that? Because once you're out in the outback, there aren't too many garages, not a lot of services. On the way over here, I had a rock come up off one of the front wheels and shatter the base of my fuel filter. If I hadn't had extra fuel, I would have been stuck on the side of the Plenty Highway for quite a while. Extra fuel in the outback is as important as extra water. You've just got to do it.
I think that'll do it, mate. Sounds like she's not getting much juice.
Roothy stole it all for his session.
Something stuck. Some little...
fuel tank, I think, the vapour. Is it?
Is it?
Let's undo the cap on the fuel tank.
Yes,
And
that's
just
a
see
good
if
idea.
it's vapour up.
See if it goes whoosh.
Pop the cap, mate. Okay, try her again, Ian.
Fingers out.
Hang on, mate. Wait on. That'll be something your lads have added by the
Yeah,
look
that
of it
engine
anyway.
fuse will be in the other bay.
Yeah. Okay.
Fingers out.
Fingers out.
Should just be a vapour.
Beautiful.
There we go. Low man
go.
diagnosed it. Vapour lock.
He knows all about pulling caps off things to make them work, doesn't he?
That's it.
Yeah, loan me up.
Well, you could hear a little earlier a bit of air being sucked in under the bonnet somewhere with and bubbling from the fuel tank. So all we've done is just release the fuel cap to allow the air back in, release the vapour, and yeah, all of a sudden we've got fuel again. Simple as that.
What actually causes a vapour lock, Blamey?
Aftermarket
Stuffed you
fuel
now,
tank.
haven't I?
Aftermarket fuel tank.
It's just tanks not breathing properly. Yeah,
Tank's not breathing properly.
that's all it is. It could be, sometimes it could be a crushed hose or something like that. It could be very simple. So yeah.
But that is something that a lot of people wouldn't actually think of, just to undo your fuel cap.
Yeah, no, I've had it happen a few times before, so it's the simplest one to fix.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Lovely.
Let's go.
We don't have to cancel it for next year's model just yet then, Ian.
I'm going to throw yours.
Mate, I'll do you a really good deal on a barely used, only driven on the occasional Sunday Toyota.
Well, this, my friends, is Knowles Track. It's a top little track, runs north-south, and rather than the rest of the Simmo that just goes up and down over the sand dunes, this track you tend to run along the top of the sand dunes. You'll scud along the top of them, then you'll duck down into a salt pan for a while, then you'll pop back up again. But the whole time it's a pretty lumpy old track. I mean, the sand dunes are lumpy, and even when you get onto the lower area, you get these lumps of gypsum that sort of seem to pop up through the track, and they restrict your speed to around about 25-30 kilometres per hour. But it's good fun. It's a really nice track, this one. Well, that was Knowles Track. I really enjoyed that. Now we're hooking right onto the French line, so back to the masses. If you can get the masses out here in the Simmo. The thing about crossing the Simpson is it's a one-lane track all the way, so that means that people head east and they head west, and you're bound to meet up somewhere along the track. Not that we've met up with too many on this trip, thankfully. I think everyone's a little bit thirsty and they're heading for the races. But the thing about these one-lane tracks,
that are packed full of sand dunes, 1,100 of them, is that if you meet someone at the top of a sand dune, you really can't see where you're going basically. Right at the crest, as you crest those dunes, you're pretty much staring at the sky. So if there's someone coming the other way, bang, you're going to have a nasty little collision in the middle of nowhere. So the trick is to install a sand flag on the top of your vehicle. So you can mount a nice long flag off your bull bar, you can mount one off the roof rack. I spoke to the one of the rangers the other day, a fella called Nick Bailey, and he told me that because some people insist on going without sand flags, every couple of years they will have a few fatalities on the Simmo from people hitting each other at the top of dunes. For the most part it's motorcyclists, but motorcyclists collecting vehicles, but occasionally it has happened where two Forbies have collided at the top of the dunes. So obviously, you know, you're out here to have fun and to have a fantastic, spectacular holiday. The last thing you need is to have some disaster happen on your holiday. There are no real secrets when it comes to sand driving in the Simpson Desert. I guess it all comes back to the old sand driving basics. Lower your tyre pressures. Around about 16 to 20 psi is generally the best, but it does depend on how heavily laden your truck is. The other thing is, don't be afraid to give it a few berries up these sand hills. Momentum will get you to the top of most hills, but it is a real delicate balancing act in these parts, because you know, you want to give it the berries to get over the hills, but you don't want to give it too many for two reasons. First of all, you don't want to rip up the track for the next person coming along. And secondly, you don't want to drain your fuel tanks, because you do need to conserve fuel in these parts. The other thing is, I suppose, drive to the conditions. If there's been rain in the last month or two, you'll find that the track is fairly hard and it'll be a fairly simple crossing. However, if it hasn't rained for months and months and months, then you'll find that every sand dune is a challenge and you'll really chew through the juice.
Augustus Popel reached this point in 1880, and he actually put his marker in about 274 metres west of here. The reason being is that the survey chains that he was using had lengthened by 1 inch since when he started in South Australia, so that put him 274 metres out. I tell you what, he did it hard though. He dragged his point, which was a coolabah tree, 92 kilometres behind a camel to reach here. This one's in the right spot now, so we've got South Australia that away, Northern Territory there, and Queensland there. So my hand is now in 3 states.
I'm going to stay in Queensland, guys. You blokes can have the rest. What do you got there? You can have Northern Territory.
I'm in the Territory, mate.
No speed limits, mate.
I'm too far from home to care, and there's no way I'm taking claim with South Australia.
Come on, mate, it's got Cooper beer.
Hey, mate, if this was sort of like, you know, a full-size replica, that'd be Victoria there, that little toothpicky bit.
Mate, we wouldn't end up being Victorians anyway, would we?
Oh, I'm proud, mate.
Of what? Well, here we are, folks. We have finally arrived at the piece de resistance of the Simpson Desert. I'm talking Big Red, the tallest sand dune in the Simmo. Now, there are a few ways you can attack this. There's a few chicken tracks and there are some real men's tracks.
and I'm driving a man's truck, a 7.3 litre F250, so I kind of got to take the men's route. Locked it into low range, turn the overdrive off, and off we go. Full throttle, all the way. She's a bit bouncy, a bit bumpy. Nearly there, halfway up. Ooh, will you make it? Oh, it's running out of puff, it's running out of puff. Oh no! Bugger. We got the front wheels up over the top, but not the back. We're gonna try again. Put the lockers on because we got ourselves a little bit boggard. It's half the fun with the Simmo is, or at least with Big Red, is playing around on these dunes. You have an absolute blast. Later in the afternoon it tends to soften right up, and that's when it gets harder to tackle. If you grab it first thing in the morning with a little bit of dew on it, it's quite simple to climb. Okay, let's give this another crack. Oh, it's getting close to the top. Will we make it over? Oh, yes! Oh, just made it. Good stuff. Oh, this is fun. This is fun. It's a really top spot to play. You know, you're only 30 or 40 k's out of Birdsville, so you're not too far away from help, I suppose, if anything does go wrong. But top spot to play. What happens is people sit down the bottom of the hills, crack open a cold drink, and watch and get entertained by the different forbies as they tackle the hill. It's an absolute blast. Great way to top off a nice trip across the Simmo.
I don't know how it's going to go, I tell you now. I've knocked the top off the hill when they weren't watching. I'm only 2 feet from it. Jeez, it's bumpy as hell. That big V8's tuned it right up. 20 feet, 30, 20. Oh, we'll get there. Come on, baby, go! Yes! Yes! Oh! You bloody beauty! Oh, that's great! Oh! Get stuffed, the lot of you! Come on, march it out! Come on! Wow, 21 years old, you see that? You guys are from Melbourne?
Yeah, Newport, Melbourne.
Yeah? And you drove up here, obviously?
Yeah, drove up for the races and
Come
just headed out here to have a look, really.
Do a bit of four-wheel driving too?
Yeah, a little bit. We're going home through Winneminka and looking forward to the trip home.
Oh, yeah. So you're going to give this bird a bit of a fly up the hill, do you reckon?
Oh, haven't got any air to put back in the tyres.
Where are you from, Chris?
Mate, I'm from Ulladulla, down the south coast.
Ulladulla.
Yeah, and heading back to Alice Springs to do some work, actually. Yeah,
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I used to work there for a couple of years. And
You going to go back over the Simmo, or?
Yeah, back over to Simpson tomorrow after the races.
Good stuff,
Yeah,
mate.
so we're pulling a trailer as well, so she's done well, fully loaded, got all the gear in, and
And
she's
now,
going.
and now it's done Big Red.
Done big red, mate.
Good
Yeah,
on you,
many
Chris.
times over too.
Oh, fair dinkum.
No, today.
Oh, today.
Cheers, take care
All
of
right,
yourself.
no worries,
Cheers.
Chris. Thanks.
After a fantastic desert crossing, we arrived in the big smoke, Birdsville. Usually, this town lives a fairly quiet existence, but when the races come to town, Birdsville comes alive. So after a quick drive around, we headed into Birdsville Autos to fill up the tanks.
Pretty cheap, $1.32. That's not far off Sydney. Before you start filling that, I'll just mark that bigger.
Glad I'm not paying this bill.
One more to go.
Is that 4X?
$50 worth.
Well, it's a dusty, windy old day in Birdsville. We've just filled up the trucks, and I have the figures here, fellas. What are the bets? What chewed the most? What chewed the least?
Oh, Milo probably got twice the economy of the rest of these, I'd reckon. And 3 times the economy of the Effie. Where is it? At least.
That's related to the driver though, isn't it?
Oh, it's got, yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the careful attitude to driving, the skill in changing gears, things like that. Yeah. So what's the answer, Pat?
Okay,
Who
mate.
won?
Well, the Effie won in that it chewed the most fuel. 163 litres it used. It's got a 7.3 litre turbo diesel. All the trucks here are turbo diesel. The ARB Dakar did 114 litres. The Rodeo was pretty frugal at 105 litres. But old Milo, mate,
The winner?
the winner, only used 78 litres.
There you
The
go.
mighty 13 BT.
Who's got a good truck then, eh? Who's also got 2 big buckets of sand in the fuel tank by the sound of things? No, that'll be right. That's great.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think it's because you chucked all your gear in the Effie, mate.
Not a bad trip, eh?
Attaboy.
What are we going to do now? Go and chase some horses.
We'll find the bar.
Find the bar? You know, the bar opened at 7 a.m. here this morning. That's not bad, is it? My kind of town. Couple of 4-wheel drives here today, mate, by the look
That's
of
it, mate. 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. I don't think I've seen any sedans, have you?
No, not actually on their wheels.
That's it.
This is definitely our country, isn't
There's
it?
some interesting concoctions around here, aren't there, mate?
I reckon.
Look at this.
That safari camp is pretty interesting.
It is.
Haven't seen one of those before.
And there's this Daihatsu thing. Oh, that
Yeah.
might not be a 4B, I suppose.
That's not a 4B by the look of it. Ah,
Ooh, look at that for a trick canopy, mate.
wow. Someone made that at home, didn't they? It's a beauty.
Someone's
I like
chopped up the filing cabinet, I think.
it. Actually, it looks like they used the wrong imperial measurement for the top and metric for the bottom.
Yeah.
Boy. Hey,
Great
look at
rigs,
that cage. That's what we need, mate.
We
Couldn't
do.
you get a few cartons in that? Oh,
Somewhere
like
to keep the handbrake, mate.
If I had one of those, I'd get locked in it, mate. There'd be no point. Oh, boy.
He's a big boy. Look at that.
Yeah, wow. Has that got a diff? Yep.
Isuzu, yeah, yep.
Yeah, big diff.
She's the real deal 4B, mate.
Far out. That's all right, isn't it? Gee, these things are getting popular, aren't they? The little hop-top camper on the back of the train back.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this guy. He's done a
got-
bit of serious stuff.
Got some good rubber under there.
Wow.
Lots of four-wheel drive owners having lots of fun, eh?
Mate, this is what it's all about, isn't it, really?
It is,
Not
isn't
much
it?
point owning one unless you get out and use it.
That's it, and they're all still arriving. Look at the trail
Oh,
down there, the
just
car
non-stop.
park over here.
Look at the girl hopping out of the one over there, Pat. I didn't say that.
No. It's been a long time in the desert, mate, but...
It has been a long time in the desert. It's an interesting mix of trucks here too, isn't there, you know?
Yeah.
I tell you what, there's a lot of these big effies around.
A lot of effies, mate. I think it's just, they go so well on these big, wide, dirt outback roads.
That's
They just
always
eat
been
it.
the way, hasn't it, though? You know, like the big Yankee cars used to be the go before four-wheel drives.
I think we're going to see a resurgence in effies. I know I'm going to buy one after this trip.
Yeah, and I'm seriously considering it too, I tell you. They're not a bad thing.
Not much of a crowd at the pub, mate.
There you go, mate. Thanks very
mate.
much. You've got readers everywhere.
We do. This is four-wheel drive monthly reader country, that's for sure.
It is, isn't it? I wonder if we got any readers working behind the bar.
I think we might have some drunk ones under the bar, maybe.
That was funny what they were saying about dust goggles being the sale item of the day today.
Yeah.
There's someone else in them.
Those planes over there, mate, you know they reckon that this is the biggest fly-in in Australia. So,
What, Birdsville Races is?
yeah, Birdsville Races, so the biggest single fly-in. So you've got all these amateur aviators and stuff, and professional, I suppose, coming in here to check the place out.
I'll tell you what, there's not many places in the world where you can sort of land right outside the pub, is there?
No, that's gold.
It's got to be an advantage.
And then over here, Roothy's boxing tent.
Oh, yes.
You're going to give it a crack, mate?
It's
Show
been-
us the old
it's
Roofmeister.
20 years since I got knocked out in Brophy's boxing tent, mate. I don't know if I'm game for
You've
another
had a
go.
crack, haven't you?
Yeah, one, and it was a crack, yeah, right in the side of the head. I thought I'd give the little guy a chance, you know. I thought, oh, I better not beat him up, he's half my size. What a joke. What do you reckon, we go and buy a horse?
Yeah, let's do it, mate.
Come
Let's
on,
do
mate.
it.
There was a pretty decent dust storm while the races were on, but that didn't dampen anyone's spirits. I think it just meant they had to drink more spirits.
What'd you put your money on, Pat?
Mate, number 69.
69, eh? Good number,
What have
mate.
you got, mate?
10, mate, put the whole lot on 10. I put the handbrakes, bloody Christmas present and everything on 10. But it's all right, I got a hot tip on 10. It's good, it's good. Come on, number 10.
Here we go.
Mate, I won't have fuel money to get home if 10 doesn't come in. I tell you, it's going to be embarrassing. I don't know why I did that. Oh, I do know why I did that. Another 6 of these and I'll probably do it again. Oh, come on, 10.
Get up
Where
at
is it?
69.
Must be up the front.
Get up at...
Who's that?
That's it. Who's out the front? Oh, you...
Come on,
big-
go!
Oh.
Come
on, get up.
Who's that? Oh,
Nah, it's
where's
not happening.
my bloody horse?
Where's number 10, mate?
Oh, mate, hey, look, there, just in front of the ambulance.
Here he comes. Come on, big boy.
Mate, what kind of a horse is that? Must have dropped a couple of plug leads.
There goes the dollars, mate.
Mate, there goes the handbrake's Christmas present. I'm really in the poo now, I tell you. Horse poo of that. I've had enough of this, mate. I'll go back to four-wheel driving. Safer.
Me too.
Oh, I don't know, mate. We've had all these days out in the desert. I've been lonely as anything, I'll tell you. She's been...
You have you, mate?
It's just been...
I have a little too, but I think I've got it sorted.
You got it sorted?
I've got it
What
sorted.
have you done? What a good boss.
Okay, thank you, Rent a Crowd.
Thank you, Rent a Crowd.
This is the typical of the atmosphere of the Birdsville races. These guys have flown in from Alice Springs. Check out the t-shirts. Rent a Crowd, Birdsville Races 2005. Pure gold. I think they know how to party, these guys. Well, fellas, not a bad trip, eh? The end of our journey, though.
Oh, mate. Unfortunately. Yeah, it's a pity, isn't it, you know? It's been fantastic, though. It's been great.
Had a ball.
Boggy Hull to Birdsville, eh?
I don't know where the bigger mess has been, though. I reckon there's going to be a boggy hole here tonight, mate.
I think we're going to form part of that boggy hole, mate.
I think so, mate. I reckon it might be time to finish the DVD and then go inside and have maybe a little quiet social meeting, so to speak. What do you reckon? Meet the locals.
Okay.
And this is a local beer.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. Good on you guys. Yeah, here's to it. Cheers.
Till next time, get the shiny side up, folks. Let's go and have a beer.
Yeah, right. G'day! Welcome to Roothy's Ruthless Tales. Go on, grab a slice of fair dinkum, Australia. Get your dose of Roothy and put a smile on your dial.